The Haitian Declaration of Independence was issued in 1804, bringing to an end the revolution against colonial France that began in 1791. Written in French, which is not the first language of most Haitians, but which was used throughout Europe as the language of international diplomacy, the declaration notes that Haiti will not bring rebellion to other Caribbean nations. Promises to respect the sovereignty of its neighbors, widely understood as a reassurance to the United States, and sets up Haiti as an example for future struggles against colonizers, an implicit reference to the many colonies then found in the Americas. So, even though the declaration is explicitly addressed to the Haitian people, it's reasonable to conclude that they did not read it. They didn't actually understand what it promised necessarily. Aspects of the declaration were modeled on similar documents from other countries. I don't show as though it says that. It says it's in the language of international diplomacy. So it does not say it was modeled after anything, any other country. B, the French government may have been surprised by the declaration. Well, if you know history, they certainly were surprised. That was the first all-black revolution that was successful. And so I suspect they were surprised, but that's not in the text here. So many Haitian people opposed the revolution and the declaration. No, I doubt that. I mean, where does it say they opposed the revolution? The people were for the revolution. Did they oppose the declaration? Possible. I mean, it wasn't written in their language, but again, that's not in there. That's just simply not in passage. So even though it's plausible, it's not in evidence. The declaration actually had several intended audiences. This is true. That's why they wrote it in a different language. It was intended for the Europeans. It had points in there that were intended to meet the wishes of the Americas and other groups. So D is correct. Leafy spurge is a Eurasian plant that has become invasive in North America, where it displaces native vegetation and sickens cattle. Oh, that's not good. Sickens cattle. Leafy spurge can be controlled with chemical herbicides, but that approach also kills harmless plants nearby. That's not good either. So either option here is not good. Recent research on introducing engineered DNA into plant species to inhibit their reproduction may offer a path toward exclusively targeting leafy spurge. Consequently, there is hope that we can stop the spread of leafy spurge, this invasive species. So consequently, making individual leafy plants more susceptible to existing... No, that's not the idea, making them more susceptible. That's specifically not there. In fact, the DNA is supposed to inhibit the reproduction, not making them susceptible to other chemicals. B, enhancing the ecological benefits in North America. So consequently, enhancing the ecological benefits. So that's for the environment in North America. Maybe, I mean, that looks good. That's the hope that, then it won't kill vegetation or sicken cattle, which is good for the ecology. And we are talking about North America. So that's a plausible answer. More than plausible. It's actually supported by evidence in the text. So let's check C and D. Enhancing cattle to consume without becoming sick. No, the DNA approach is not to allow cattle not to get sick from eating this plant. Reducing invasive leafy spurge numbers without harming other organisms. Yeah, that's actually more specific. That's even more directly applicable to the text. I think D is a better answer than B. So enhancing ecological, that's broad, right? What ecological benefits are we talking about? It could be most anything, right? That's the only problem with B and why I put a question mark there. D gets to the point. Reducing this invasive leafy spurge numbers. That's the idea of inhibiting their reproduction, reducing their numbers, okay? It's kind of synonymous. Without harming other organisms. The problem with one of these solutions was the herbicide, it harmed other organisms as well, killed other plants. So the goal here is not to do that. D is the best answer. By running computer simulations of the development of our solar system, so-and-so concluded that the sun may have been surrounded by 3 giant dust rings before the planet started to form. Really, that's kind of cool. I never knew that. So there's the sun and 1, 2, 3 dusty rings with the sun in the middle. Okay. All right. The researchers suggest that the materials in the innermost ring became the 4 planets. Very cool. So those were 4 planets, which would have included Earth. The materials in the middle ring produced the rest of the planets, and the materials in the outermost ring created the asteroids and other small bodies in the region beyond Neptune. In one simulation, the researchers delayed the initial formation of the middle ring, causing oversized super-Earths to begin developing from the innermost ring. The researchers therefore hypothesized that if they delayed the development of the middle ring, super-Earths would have begun developing. So that means the middle ring must have been soon after the development of planets, soon after the inner ring. Okay. So the middle ring formed earlier in the solar system development than the initial simulations suggested? No, just because they ran a scenario analysis doesn't mean no, that's not right. The timing of the initial formation of the middle ring played an important role in determining the eventual size of Earth. Yes, if they changed the timing, the size of the inner planets would have changed. That's pretty much going to be our answer. I'm going to circle that. And let's just check C and D. If the formation of the outermost ring had occurred earlier, all the planets would have become super. No, that's the facts were the opposite of that. If they delayed the outer, actually it was the middle, not even the outermost ring, we would have gotten super Earths. Whereas if it were earlier, planets would have been smaller according to the idea. So that's wrong in 2 fronts. D, the innermost ring actually formed into all the planets in our solar system. No, that's not in there at all. Never says that. B is the correct answer. In documents called judicial opinions, judges explain the reasoning behind their legal rulings. And in those explanations, they sometimes cite and discuss historical and contemporary philosophers. Legal scholars and philosophers, such and such, argues that while judges are naturally inclined to mention philosophers whose views align with their own positions, the strongest judicial opinions consider and rebut potential objections. Discussing philosophers whose views conflict with the judge's view could therefore be helpful or beneficial to a good decision, lead to good decisions. So sure, if I could pick any philosopher that agrees with me and then therefore say that's evidence that I'm right, but that's really kind of loading the boat there. That's not quite right? I'm just picking somebody who agrees with me, not helping to support my case. But if I pick somebody who's disagreeing with me and can still cite why I'm right, that's a more powerful argument. So I think that's what's going on here. Let's see the correct answer. Allow judges to craft judicial opinions without needing, no, it doesn't say they're not going to consult philosophers at all, right? Help judges improve the arguments they put forward in their judicial opinions. Yeah, it's going to be helpful. That's right. B is the answer. It's going to help them improve their arguments, because they won't tailor pick the argument that's in their favor. They'll pick something against them and still argue their case, which is more powerful. C, make judicial opinions more comprehensible. No, more comprehensible, more understandable. That's not going to happen at all. That's not in the text. Bring judicial opinions in line with views that are broadly held among philosophers. No, right? So yeah, no, that's not right. Because philosophers themselves have very different opinions, so how could we even possibly bring them into line with various different opinions? Many mosquito repellents contain natural components that work by activating multiple odor receptors on mosquitoes' antennae. As the insects develop resistance, new repellents are needed. Kadong and her team found that EBF, a molecular component of chrysanthemum flower extract, can repel, not does, but can repel mosquitoes by activating just one odor receptor, And this receptor, OR31, is present in all mosquito species known to carry diseases like dengue fever. That's horrible. Don't ever get dengue fever. Therefore, but it only lasts a week. Therefore, the researchers, well, hopefully, the researchers suggest that in developing new repellents, it would be most useful to target the OR31 receptor and possibly use chrysanthemum as part of that, because that targets the one receptor. That way you're going to essentially get all mosquito species, right? So identify molecular components similar to EBF that target the active. That's it right there, right? So similar to EBF is basically saying chrysanthemum or something like that, and target that particular receptor that exists on all mosquitoes that carry diseases. So let's just check B, C, and D. B, investigate alternative methods for extracting EBF molecules from chrysanthemums. Would be most useful to do that? No, not really. Nothing said we really need alternative methods for extracting EBF from chrysanthemums. Verify the precise location of OR31 and other photoreceptors on mosquitoes' antennae. Well, I think we know that. We've already created some repellent based on that, so it's not as if they don't know that. So I don't think that's right with the text. D, determine the maximum number of different odor receptors that can be activated by a single molecule. No. I mean, that's plausible, but again, OR31 is on all mosquitoes. Therefore, the idea here is you want to get something that targets OR31, not necessarily other receptors. That's not the idea. A is the correct answer. Astronomers investigated the Arabia Terra region of Mars because it appears to contain irregularly shaped craters that may have been caused by massive volcano explosions. Okay. In their investigation of Arabia Terra, the researchers found remnants of ash deposits in an amount and thickness that would result from a massive volcanic eruption. However, erosion and past resurfacing events could have modified the surface of the planet. Therefore, we can't conclude volcano, right? I mean, it's a suggestion, but we really can't make that conclusion because evidence doesn't necessarily say that, given the changes that have occurred. So the current makeup of the Arabia Terra region might not accurately reflect the volcanic activity. Yeah, that's kind of right. I'm going to check that and hold on to it. Let's check B, C, and D. Eruptions from Mars's volcanoes were likely not as massive. So nothing says it's that massive. And by the way, we don't know for sure they had eruptions, right? That's what we're trying to find out in this research. So B is not right. Ash was most likely expelled from multiple. Again, we have no idea of multiple or not multiple, or even if they were from eruption. D, the craters found in the Arabia Terra region were necessarily created. Necessarily created, very extreme language. Probably not right. By events other than volcanic eruptions. No. So the evidence doesn't disprove the volcanoes. It just suggests it's not solid enough evidence, right? It could have been altered over the period that would have, denied the validity of the results. So that's, it might be right. It might not be right. Not that it's necessarily other explanation. So D is wrong. A is the best answer. The ancient Sumerian civilization formed around 4000 BC between two large rivers in an area that is now Iraq and Syria. The extremely hot and sunny weather in that area helped crops grow very quickly, but it also made it hard to keep the crops from drying and dying. So the Sumerians used water from the rivers in their farming. That method worked so well that they often could harvest even more crops than they needed in a season. As a result, the Sumerians ate well. I'm kind of kidding a little bit, but were able to produce more than they ate and probably even sell other foods and crops. right? They probably had so much they were able to make money on it and sell it. So it's one of those kind of ideas. They ate well, they had an abundance of crops to feed their people, and maybe they made money selling additional. So let's look. The Sumerians harvested crops only on the hottest. How do we possibly know that? Nothing in here says they harvested on the hottest days or not. Found ways to shield their crops from the sun. No, that's not what they did. To make sure they didn't dry up and die, they used the water from the rivers. That's not right. To cool it off and help the crops grow and survive. C, did not begin farming until long after 4000 BC. So the civilization formed then between two large rivers. It's not likely that it was long after. It probably was somewhat simultaneous because the farming was required to support the civilization. There's nothing that actually says this in the text, so it's kind of against logic and it's not evidenced. D, we're able to store extra crops for later use. Yeah, there we go. Sell other foods, but store them. This doesn't necessarily say they sell them. I know that's kind of moving beyond the text, but they definitely had additional inventory of crops. D.